Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr for an emergency podcast. Tom, how's it going?
Oh, Tony, I took some NyQuil a little bit ago to deal with this general what have you that I'm dealing with right now, and thought, well, I'm just glad we're done with podcasts for the day. And then, Tony, news broke. And so here we are. Let's talk about Ohio State football.
Yeah, the news breaking the reported intentions to transfer of Abor, Ohio State redshirt freshman defensive end, planning to enter the portal, according to Hayes Fawcett of On3. So thought we'd jump on here and talk about what that means for Ohio State. Tom, I think the first thing that jumps out for me is we've kind of been waiting for this almost for a year now.
Yeah, it just sort of has felt like he's sort of in the range of where, you're at least kind of keep monitoring it, where player kind of playing far from home, has not cracked the top four, even with potentially the entire Ohio State defensive line leaving after this year. You still figure Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson are ahead of him. You've got other names that, we've talked about other guys maybe switching positions and becoming more edge players. Like there's a lot of competition there for a position where they only took one guy last year and they only have one guy committed for this year. But it doesn't, it didn't seem like there was a super obvious path to the playing field there. And at this point, if you're 2 years into your career and there's not a super obvious path to the playing field, it feels like you're at least sort of even money to make this kind of choice.
Yeah, he has played in 6 games this year, played in 1 game last year. I think has a career total of 2 or 3 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. Got into obviously some late blowouts: Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan State, and Minnesota, and has really been at the very back of the depth chart. And last year not playing as a true freshman, I believe he was banged up. We've seen him on the availability report here and there over his time at Ohio State, but came from Texas. And like as soon as he arrived, you really didn't hear too much about him. And we've talked about other guys that you hear about, be it Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson. You never really heard much about Amari Abor. And when you would see him in practice, when we're trying to figure out with depth charts, and he's repping at the back of the line, and didn't really see him jump forward. But like you said, Tom, this is a depth chart moving to next year. I don't expect JT Tuimoloau to be back at defensive end. I kind of expect Jack Sawyer to be back, but coaches and scouts like him, and he's kind of like the dirty work guy, so that may be something that vaults him forward to the NFL. But you're right, like only having Joshua Mickens in the class last year, and then probably moving Arvell Reese from linebacker to defensive end. You've got Mitchell Melton, who played not much. He played in just about every game this year, but only once or twice did he get more than 10 snaps. Obviously, Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson will be the top 2 if Sawyer is gone. But that's very little proven commodities there at defensive end. And you're talking, if Jack Sawyer leaves and JT Tuimoloau leave, you've got Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry as your most proven guys. And they were second-year players this year who, didn't light the world on fire, but obviously didn't have as many snaps as other guys. In fact, I'm looking, and they played about the same amount of snaps, those two, and they're going to be counted on in a big way next year. But behind them, there's really nothing proven.
No, you're dealing with a whole lot of, hopes and dreams and maybes, and, there's talent there, and there's, could you see CJ Hicks slide down to edge? Sure. You put a little weight on him. Sure. Possibility. Sonny Styles, you saw playing safety this year. Could he slide down and be a linebacker or even an edge? That's something that Mark Ivler talked about a little bit on our huddle board this week in terms of, where is Sonny Styles maybe the best natural fit? There's lots of possibilities. there's not a lot of sure things there right now until you see those guys. There's not, and only having taken one guy and, one with an asterisk there because of Joshua Mickens, but also Arvell Reese last year and Edric Houston right now. And, they're right on potentially a flip candidate or two at defensive end. So maybe you bring in someone else there, but there's not a lot of sure things at that edge position. And if you can't get, if you don't have a lot of depth there, or you're not real confident in your depth there, that's not a great spot to be in, because they had 4 guys they felt pretty good about this year, and still that wasn't a ton of depth. And at Notre Dame, I think really it was just Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau the whole game. So how confident really were they in the depth at that point of the season? It's not. This is one of these things that. This is not something that necessarily is the huge shock. This is not Hayden Curry transferring. But you're losing a body in a room where sometimes you need to play your depth. And this is one piece of depth that is then no longer in that room.
Well, and you're going to have to replace that number, that person. And whether it's a flip candidate like Florida defensive lineman commit Amaris Williams, or Miami defensive end commit Marquise Lightfoot, or somebody out of the portal, or a position move. We know Jim Knowles talked about CJ Hicks playing the jack, which is something that we didn't even see the position this year. He scrapped it entirely so that he could be more in line with what everybody seemingly wanted, maybe except for him. But he scrapped that, and that's a place where Mitchell Melton was planning on playing more, where CJ Hicks was. It was going to be those two. We talked. I explicitly remember all of the conversations that we had about those two and what it would mean. And with the Sonny Styles thing, he's played Sam. It's not a huge jump. It's from Sam to an edge type for what they would like to do or what they could do. So you have some bodies that you can move in, but the defensive end body is something that Omari Abor had and had the ability to hold up against the run and the pass. And so do you go get another one like that? Like how specialized are their pass rushers? Like, you are a pass rush specialist. You are an every down defensive end. You are a run down defensive end. The specialization of those positions. And now at this point, they just need bodies. And whether that's the portal, whether that's recruiting, whether that's somebody already on the team, you can't afford to lose guys unless you have plans to replace them. And I don't think this caught them off guard. I don't think this was a surprise to them. But I also need to know that they have something in the works.
Yeah, you have to know how you're going to replace these guys, because it's very easy to just say, well, okay, slide someone down from, first of all, get out the spatula and flip someone. Sure, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't, okay? But even true freshman defensive ends that does not solve the 2024 issue. That might help with the 2025 issue. That doesn't necessarily help with the 2024 issue. Edge rushers are one of those positions that it's like, sure, just grab someone in the portal. Well, the guys who are at the level that Ohio State is looking for in the portal, everyone wants them. That's how, there is a lot of demand. There are very few of them. That is a tough place to pull, that is a high demand position. So it's not just so easy as just pointing and going, you will come with me. It's a little more complicated than that. And then when we're talking about guys who are potentially position shift guys, you got to make that decision now, because Sonny Styles just played safety on Saturday. He just played the bandit position. You cannot play the bandit position at a defensive edge, at an edge weight. You cannot play edge at a safety weight. That is a decision you've got to make at some point well before the ball, that is not this week you're going to play safety and next week you're going to play edge. No, that's going to be a long, hard off season of work if you're going to, put on the, minimally 20 pounds of weight you got to put on to switch between those two positions, and, maybe even potentially more than that. So, that it is not quite as easy to just kind of go, there are 3 different ways they can solve this problem, and they're all really easy. Like, no, it's a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, and so welcome to the transfer portal season. This will not be the last emergency transfer portal podcast that we have for you, but we do want to make sure we keep you up to date. And I have a list of names that I'm expecting or could be headed to the portal. Obviously, not a surprise, Omari Abor was one of those. So, as I said, we will be back with more as they happen. Hopefully no more tonight. Tom needs to get some rest. And before we need to get off the air before the NyQuil kicks in and he says something he shouldn't. So with that, I will bid you all adieu. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining us. Hit the thumbs up on this if you could on this video, if you would be so inclined. And of course, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com where we are talking about this portal move and many others to come and a bunch of other stuff as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.